Welcome everybody, it's great to have you here today as we look at our Enterprise Architect Trerado series. My name's Scott Hebbard. I'm joined today by Steve Maguire that's going to step us through this process.
So let's make a start. I have open here two tabs, and so I can open Designer and Collaborator from these buttons on this, home screen here. But I actually had them open already, so I'm going to go to the dashboard. And if people have seen previous videos that we've done, they'll know that we've built up this dashboard, from scratch, piece by piece. One of the things that we did relatively early on was to create this stakeholder analysis mind map diagram. Now I'm just going to click on the view here. So I'm in a dashboard.
We used the diagram widget, didn't we, to build that?
Yeah, that's right. That's exactly right, Scott. We used the diagram widget to create this. And just to put people into context, this is an example, a case study of an insurance company that was originally created by the Open Group as part of the Archimate specification or extension to that. We've embellished that and added more content to it. So that's where we're at, and we're in Collaborator, and we're looking at a dashboard. Now it's important to remember, Scott, that a user can have one or more dashboards, and they can be part of a group, and the group can have a number of dashboards as well. But let's just open this using this view button here. So we'll just use the view. We'll open that up, and we'll see that there's our stakeholder analysis mind map. So, from a project point of view, very common thing to do early on: get all your stakeholders in the room, find out what their concerns are, talk to them. And you can use Enterprise Architect, the Trerado Designer, to basically to keep notes or minutes from your meeting by just, as people are announcing themselves and as they're announcing what their concerns are, then you can create this mind map. If we click on these elements, you'll see that what happens is that we go over here and we open up a properties window, and that window is actually like features window in a sense. It's got properties, discussions, usages, traceability, attributes, operations, lots of different things there. And also it has got the documentation here about particular elements. And as we click there, we might be interested in mid-sized businesses. Click on that and we can find out, what they are, or customers, the board or the automobile repair shops. So that's the mind map, Scott. Let's now go over to Designer and have a look at where that came from. So as you said, it was a diagram widget. So we're expecting to find a diagram inside Designer that where that came from. So I'm going to use these navigation cells here, Scott. I've got people who are not familiar with Trerado Designer. It has got a project view here that I can look at my various elements and diagrams. I've got like a toolbox, and I've got the central area here where the diagrams are being represented. And what I've got here is what we call a navigation diagram. It's like a home page, and what we can do is we can click through on these cells and get through to other diagrams. So in this one here, we can say, look, let's have a look at the business context and background. And there's that diagram there that we did early on as well.
Yes.
So that's one of the ones that we had inside Designer as well. If I flick back to in Collaborate, if I flick back now to that and look at my dashboard, you'll see that was one of the diagrams that we had early on as well. But I wanted to do the mind map today, so let's look for that. So we can just backtrack through here and come back to our home screen, and we can move down here and we say extended modeling diagram. So the mind map is not part of the Archimate language, and so we've extended it to show that the tool can be used for that. Now here again, I've got navigation cells, so I've gone down 2 levels of navigation diagrams, and in the right hand corner of these cells, Scott, there's a little tiny icon, and that gives me a preview. So if I click on that, what that's going to do is bring up a preview. You can see that's in a dialog window,
Yes.
and I can look at that and go, yes, that's what I wanted. And I might, look at something else, and I might say, look, maybe it's an organization chart or something. I can look that up and say, what does that look like? And that's not what I wanted, but it gives you the preview. But I can click through on this one, and I'm going to do that. And so here's the diagram inside Designer, right? So it's the same diagram, but we're looking at it inside Designer. And here you can see what we call documentation inside Trerado Collaborator are called notes inside Designer. So what we're going to do is we're going to build this thing from scratch, Scott. So I'm going to find this diagram in the browser window. So this tree view over here is organizing all of my artifacts, all of the things that are part of my model or in my repository, including elements and diagrams. So with that, just clicking somewhere in a blank canvas there, I'm going to use the browser toolbar here with this find context item. So basically locate that diagram inside that tree. And you can see, I could have found that myself and could have, looked all the way down here, but this is a much, much easier way to start navigating around. Here's the diagram there. And here
I assume the context item is what's ever selected.
That's right,
the diagram or the element itself.
Or the element, yeah. So what's in context? What have you got selected? So here are all of the elements in there, and I can see, I can look at these and expand them, and I can go the other way and say, look, let's find that in the current diagram. And there it is there, mid-sized businesses. There's the information, lender requirements hearing adequate property and things. So I can click on all of these things, a risk assessment, ensuring sufficient policy coverage. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to close that diagram now, and I'm going to go and delete all of that, Scott, and just to prove that we can do this thing from scratch. So with those two things selected, I'm going to right mouse click there and say delete selected items. Now it will take a little while to go through and delete all of that content, but let's go yes to all. And that content is gone now. So what I'm going to do now is say, okay, let's create a new diagram. Now we can do that by going up into this toolbar here and saying we want a new diagram. So again, the browser toolbar, select that. Now I've got the opportunity to say that what type of diagram that I want. What I want to do is select a mind map diagram. You'll find that in the strategy group there, and I'll say a mind map diagram, and I'm going to call it Archi-Sharon Stakeholder Analysis because that's the name of the package. So it's defaulted to that, and I'm going to accept that diagram type. So that's fine. And now we've got a blank diagram, and you notice the toolbox has changed to be the things that we are looking at now.
Central topics and the main topics and all the things that we need for a mind map. Yeah.
So we know what one looks like now because we've just seen it. So let's put a central topic in there, and we'll put it right into the middle of the diagram there, Scott, and we'll call it Archi-Assurance Stakeholder Analysis. So that's what we want, and you notice that reshapes properly. We'll make that a little bit bigger. And Scott, if you've watched any of my videos before, you know that I'm very pedantic or very keen on putting notes into all the elements. So I'm going to put some notes in here. The Archi-Assurance Stakeholder Analysis is a comprehensive mapping of key parties involved more actively. So now what we can do is let's just use the quick linker to go and put some new elements in. So with that selected in diagram, I'm going to click there and I'm going to say let's create a main topic. And let's call
and theoretically those notes you could enter them during the meeting as information comes up, so you capture all that intellectual property and the ideas from the meeting in your diagram.
Absolutely, Scott. And then you might go back after the meeting and refine this. And the other thing, just since you've mentioned that, the other thing is that we're going to push this a bit further. Once we've done the mind map diagram, we're going to say, look, that's what these people are concerned about, but let's put it in formally into our tool as their concerns or as requirements that they want. But this is a record of what happened in the meeting. So rather than have some textual thing that you've written down, this is going to give you a great visual on that. So there's banks, and someone's going to be in the meeting representing banks, and so let's think about something that's really important to a bank and to their customers, and we'll the stakeholder in the room that's talking about the banks or representing the banks will probably bring up something like this. And let's say customer data security, big topic at the moment. Everything security. So we've got that, and we start to bring our mind map out. And again, I'll put some notes in there. So let's imagine that someone representing the bank has, set information protection obligations for customer insurance data, transaction records, and personal things. So, they're the three levels that we'll go down to. But let's just put another one in here for, let's put in one for automobile shops. So this was part of the merger that went on between some existing organisations before Archisurance was created. There were a number of different organisations, and I think one of them was focusing on the automobile. So we'll go, we want a main topic there. And again, Designer does the work for it. It's highlighting that. So we can just go and start typing immediately, automobile repair shop. And we could go back and change these names later if for some reason we needed to. And again, I'm going to put in some notes for that. And we might say that they might be looking at quality standards, for example. So we're going to put in some more elements for that one as well. So let's do that, and let's put in a topic there. And this one's going to be called quality standards. I don't know whether you've had your car's been involved in a little bingle, but it's having the repair done in a quality way is really important, and this organisation's focused on that quality standard. So that's what we're doing. Now we can change the colours and things with this. So we can go to our layout ribbon and our style panel. We can say, look, let's change this colour a little bit. We might say, look, we'll put a different colour in there. Let's change the border and say, look, we want that to be a different type of coloured border, and let's make that that border a little bit bigger as well. So there we have it. And these curves are Bezier curves, Scott. So there's lots of flexibility to make those look much more interesting in the diagram and give you some more room as well. And we can say, look, let's keep each one of these organizations into a different color, and so we could choose a color for this and say, look, let's choose a purple color there, and we can lighten that up as well if we want to. So in these kind of diagrams, some of that's quite important to get right. And then we can say, look, let's copy that color and let's paint this one with it as well. And so with our banks, let's maybe we'll keep that color there, and we'll pick that, and we'll say, look, let's get all the bank things that color.
Same color. Yeah. Welcome back. We now have our Archisurance stakeholder analysis mind map that's been finished, and we've updated and added lots of detail. So perhaps, Stephen, you can tell us what you've done and what you've added on this particular diagram.
Yeah, so no magic, Scott. Let's just imagine that the stakeholder meeting has moved forward, and lots of the people, the surrogates representing these different organizations like the board, channel intermediaries, banks, customers, that they have had the opportunity to speak, and we've written down some of their comments as well. So households, premium of affordability, that's it, claim things there. Now what I want to do, Scott, is to show you that this diagram is quite large, and so what I can use in Designer is the Portals Workspace facility. So over here I've got the Portals window open. That's sort of tucked away there in the side, and I can bring that out, and the workspaces come out there, and I'm going to go into wide view there. And what that's going to do is it's going to change the interface there so that, I can have a little bit more opportunity to kind of see those things in detail. So that's the mind map. Now let's just we'll go out of this wide view. We've looked at the diagram, so it's useful when you want to show some stakeholders the diagram. And what I'd be encouraging people to do with this is to use Designer like as a note taking, but also a visual representation. So be projecting it in the meeting, and so people can see it evolving and make comments on it. And then when it's finished, give them a link to it through the dashboard in Collaborator. And also then you can get their feedback. You can put it into a review. You can ask for them to make discussions on particular aspects of the diagram. They might have some feedback on these notes and say, no, that's not quite what I meant. And so they can give that feedback. So just one other thing, Scott, we launched this diagram from a navigation cell here. Now I'm just going to go back to that. What I'm going to do is I'm going to delete that navigation cell and do that from scratch as well. I'll just copy these notes because, as you know, I'm very particular about notes, and rather than typing them in again. So this isn't the diagram itself. This is a navigation cell. So I can find that in the browser again. So that's the context element. And as you said, it applies to different things. Here's my navigation cell up here. And I can say, look, I just want to get rid of that particular cell. So I'll delete that cell and it's gone from that. So now what I want to do is put in that diagram. And it's very simple, Scott. All I do is just select the diagram in this project browser and drag and drop it onto that diagram. And I want to say I want a navigation cell. So a number of different options for you can use to drop the diagram as a target. So frame, reference, hyperlink. We want to do the navigation cell, and let's look for one icon that represents our mind map. There's lots to choose from here. This one looks like a decent one. I think that's what was on it before, and that goes in there. Now we want to get these to the same size, so let's just select all of these and make sure that they're all the same size as that one. I go to my layout ribbon and I go to my alignment panel and simply select same height and width there. And then I can say, look, I want them to be, lined up. So again, in my layout ribbon, I'm going to say, align their tops. Whoops, not all of them. A bit too keen there. I'll just align these ones here. So
it's very easy to undo a mistake like that.
Yeah, absolutely, Scott. It is very flexible, and the undo, the Control Z goes back, I don't know how many levels, but I've certainly gone back sometimes 10, 15 different levels as I wanted to get back. So now I'll save that diagram, and now I can come in from the start here and go, here I am on my Trerado. I know that I'm going to go to extended diagrams, click on that one, come in here, and my diagram's there. Now we have already looked at in Trerado Collaborator, we've already seen that diagram there, and there it is. And if we just refresh that again now, you can see that that's the diagram there, and we're a bit more familiar with it now. And we can say, look, let's click on this automobile repair shop and see, what were the parts of that. So Scott, we've kind of gone a full circle now. We've we've looked at it started looking at it in Collaborator, and then we showed how
use the widget to create the diagram. Yes,
exactly right, Scott. And then we've seen how we can create that diagram. And like you said, it's really a note taking. It's really something that you can do while you're talking to the stakeholders in the meeting. And we often get comments from people saying, well, there are other tools out there that do mind mapping and completely tailored to mind mapping. But the thing that we'll show at some point, Scott, is the fact that when you have the mind map inside Enterprise Architect, we can relate it to other elements. So if we went into here now and we looked at our Archi-assurance model, and we said, look, let's look at our stakeholders in the motivation aspect there, we can see that there are stakeholders there, and there's the automobile repair shop. So that's going to be related to this particular element here. And then the concerns that they may have are going to end up possibly as requirements, network competition, payment disputes. They're going to enable you to have traceability between not just these high-level mind map diagram, but right down through all the different layers of the architecture and the design down into business analysis level as well. So look, that's it, Scott, for this presentation and this video. And I think it's an incredibly useful diagram, and I'm encouraging people to use it.
Thanks, Stephen. Yes, it's certainly very powerful. It's great for capturing ideas in meetings, but like you said, you can then have traceability from that concept or discussion idea all the way through to real world deliverables, all through Designer, which is fantastic. To our audience, I want to thank you for joining us today. As always, all of the videos where we've shown previously how to use the diagram widget and how to embed that in your dashboard, and lots of other videos that show you how to use end product at Trerado are all available on Sparx Systems YouTube channel. If you have any questions for Stephen, you can reach out via his LinkedIn credentials that are in the video description below. And as always, thanks for joining us, and thank you very much, Stephen, for your knowledge and expertise in showing us how to build a mind map from first principles.
Always a pleasure, Scott.